Mr. Transformers 96 here with another wave ranking. This time we have the Marvel Legends X-Men Age of Apocalypse Sugar Man Build-A-Figure wave. This is an interesting wave. If you've watched some of my previous videos where I talked about the wave overall, I mentioned that I thought that the Build-A-Figure looked really interesting, but I just did not plan to get this wave in the slightest. I was going to 100% skip the wave altogether, no problem, no hassle. Then I was at the store the other night, and they happened to have the entire wave minus a Dark Beast, whose Build-A-Figure piece is only the weapon for the Build-A-Figure. And it was really tempting to be able just to completely buy them all and build the Build-A-Figure right away. And at Walmart, you know, they were a little cheaper than your average retail. They were like $18.80 instead of $20. So that just, you know, made it feel a little bit more worth it. So I thought about it for a while, decided to get them, and I am super happy about it. I think this is a really interesting wave, and the Build-A-Figure is so unique. I love them. So yeah, overall I'm very happy that I did end up purchasing this wave, even though I had no intention of doing so at all. In this wave ranking, I'm only going to be ranking the regular figures in the wave. The Build-A-Figure I consider is on very much a different level than everybody else, so I won't be ranking him within the actual figures themselves. And I won't be ranking Dark Beast, of course, as I mentioned. I don't have him yet. I have actually pre-ordered Dark Beast on Hasbro's website. Should be shipping in a little over a week. I'm actually excited to get that figure, and had he been here, I can guarantee you he would be my favorite one of the wave. So just know that Dark Beast is 100% going to be my favorite one of the wave. But for the 6 that we have here that are needed to build the Build-A-Figure without his weapon, we can start ranking them. So I'm going to be ranking them from my least favorite to my favorite. I'm taking into account mainly the figures. I don't have much of an attachment to the actual characters because I didn't know much about any of these characters when I bought the figures. But since owning them, it's actually kind of sparked my interest in the Age of Apocalypse storyline, and I've actually done a lot of research and found out a lot of stuff about each of these characters, which it's always really fun when, you know, a toy line can really spark my interest like that. So I've become more familiar with all these characters, and in particular their storyline within Age of Apocalypse. But yeah, let's get started here with my least favorite figure of the wave. And my least favorite figure of the wave is Morph. This is one that he was part of the first, like, 2, I think, that they showed of this wave, and he just didn't interest me at all. I think that the figure is done poorly, in my opinion. I think that as far as the face sculpt, it's very plain, and it's not just due to the character's design. Like, look at this awesome artwork on the side of the package with that super expressive, you know, just shows you everything about his character face expression. And instead they went with this really simple, like, one eyebrow, like a cartoon, like, you know, 5-year-old's drawing of a smirk. You know, it's super plain. The cape is okay, but it's got a bit of a rubber feel to it, more than Marvel Legends usually do. So I don't quite know why that's the case. It might be because it's so rounded up top, but it feels a little cheap-like. And then the body is very basic, just a figure that I think is quite disappointing. And I think Morph is a pretty popular character. I know he's pretty comedic, so it's disappointing that they didn't do more with this figure, because it could have been pretty cool, but the way that they did it, in my opinion, is my least favorite figure of the wave. And next up we have Wild Child. This is a decent figure. It's not bad, you know, it's not terrible by any means. I think that it has a really good face sculpt, and then really nicely sculpted hands and feet. They're very aggressive and very unique. But the rest of the figure is a very basic sculpt. It just has one color on it. There's nothing different color-wise. You know, forget shading or anything like that. There's just a single coat of color. And then the overall, I think that the body sculpt that they use is so thin that his feet and his head look massive. Now the feet being massive, you know, that kind of goes with the monstrous type of look, but the head being massive looks a little odd when it comes to his shoulders just being so tiny. So not a terrible figure, you know, proportions are and then the design is a little basic when it comes just to the main portion of the body, but that's how he looks in the comics. You know, not a horrible figure, but not one that gets me super excited. And taking the fourth spot, we have Jean Grey. This is a pretty nice looking figure. I mean, you wouldn't know it in package because when you see her on the shelf, all you can see is that massive Sugar Man face, and then she is scrunched, like smashed to the side of the package. She's even sideways too, so you really don't get a good look at her in packaging. But in person, she's a nice looking figure. I think the face sculpt's pretty solid, although the expression's a little dull in my opinion. I love the arm sculpts. I believe those are 100% new sculpts. The kind of angled shoulders, the triangle style shoulders, I think look really neat, give her very much a 90s feel, which is, where X-Men really soared. So I think that her design is pretty cool looking. It's an interesting take on Jean Grey, and I think that overall, pretty neat figure. And then taking the bronze place, we have Weapon X. This is a figure that other than Morph, this is probably the one that I was least looking forward to in the wave. Again, I didn't even plan to get any of them, but if I were going to get them, this would be one of the last ones that I would get. But I'm actually really liking this figure. I think the head sculpt is really cool. It has a super aggressive expression, and then the hair is just out of this world. There's so much hair, and the sculpting in it's really good. Now, the rest of the body is your average, kind of Wolverine sculpt. Nothing super special. I think that the way that they have applied the arm hair, it looks pretty good, pretty naturalistic. And then the other piece of him that's very special is the fact that he has no left hand, and it's just a stub with the claws in it, which is interesting. He gets his hand cut off by Cyclops. He takes one of Cyclops' eyes, though, so in the storyline Age of Apocalypse. Overall, though, I think this is a pretty fun figure, to be honest. I actually really like it. It's very striking, and I think it's mainly due to the fact that it's such a weird version of Wolverine and such a badass head sculpt. And in second place, we have Sunfire. This is a cool looking figure. Head sculpt wise, I love the flames coming off of the head, and the collar piece with the flames surrounding the head looks awesome as well. There's some great paint within the flames too, because although it's orange at the top, it's a brighter, more solid orange the higher it gets, and then as it gets closer to the base, it's more of a translucent yellowish orange. It looks really good. It has a really nice fading effect. It looks like it really goes together very naturalistically. The rest of the body, I think, is just really cool because it's, all just yellow, but it's all translucent yellow, which is interesting. I think this is the first Marvel Legends figure that's just fully translucent. Like, you can see all the joints within inside him, which I think is cool. I think it's really awesome looking. And then the black highlights on top of it are applied so perfectly. There's no issues with those highlights on top, which is surprising. I would think that there would be some issues there, but they are very crisp, very clean, very dark. They look really good. And just overall, it's a great way of doing something that's very common in the comics, of a fire or electricity character that, is all solid, and then they have the black outlining to show their muscular system. It's done in a 3D, version where I can pick it up, but it has very much of a comic feel to it, which I really like. And in first place, I'm going to have to go with Nate Gray, aka X-Men. So this was a figure that I actually think looked really cool in packaging. He has such a 90s, X-Men animated series type of look about him. I think it's pretty cool. The way that they have sculpted him to be so broad shoulder-wise and slim down so much to the waist, very cartoony. This is the figure in the series that is a little bit more cartoon than it is comic in my opinion, but I think that looks cool. And it can still completely fit with your comic figures, but I think that it has kind of an animated series type of look to it, which I think is pretty special. The electricity type of flare on his face looks really cool. I like the way that's done a lot. And then overall, the painting on him is very good. He's a dark blue with yellow highlights that really make him pop, and it's very classic X-Men-like. Interesting character being, the kind of clone child of Cyclops and Jean. It's a really neat figure. It has some newly sculpted parts as well. The arms as well as the jacket, I think, are 100% new. Obviously, the head is as well. Knee pads too, probably belt even. So there's some decent new pieces to him that make him quite an interesting looking figure. And what I would say is my favorite of the wave for now. I do definitely think that Dark Beast is 100% going to be my favorite of the wave. But for the 6 that I have right now, I think that I would definitely rate Nate Gray as my favorite. And that's my ranking of the Marvel Legends Age of Apocalypse series Sugar Man Build-A-Figure. This is a cool series, actually, and it's one that I wasn't going to get at all. I'm kind of surprised about it now, actually getting these figures. I do think that I'm going to sell some of these figures just because, character-wise, I don't need them. But I think that they have such a unique look, and buying this set has got me so into like researching these characters and the Age of Apocalypse event that it's really fun, and I love it when toys and figures can get me, like, spark my interest in stuff that I don't know too much about. It really happens with Marvel Legends a lot because they go with some more obscure characters more often. But this was a really interesting wave because of that. Solid figures overall, I'd say, and a really satisfying Build-A-Figure. If I included the Build-A-Figure is my favorite, figure of the wave, of course, but considering he's so much more than your average figure, I'm not going to include him with the actual ranking. Overall, really fun wave, solid figures, not a single horrible one amongst them. I definitely think that Morph is disappointing, but all the rest are really good, and then it's just kind of, different degrees of good, essentially. But yeah, overall, cool wave with an awesome Build-A-Figure and a very unique wave in the fact that it's basically a wave about a single comic event, which really, I don't think there's been a wave like that before. So it's pretty interesting. Let me know what you guys think of this wave, and thanks so much for watching.